paddle boarding are now enjoyed on the river, and DC now allows scheduled swimming events, if you can believe that. The Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure is currently developing the Water Resources Development Act of 2022. After having discussions with the Potomac Riverkeepers Network, I requested that the bill authorize the Army Corps of Engineers to conduct a feasibility study on public swimming options in the Potomac and Anacostia rivers, and require the Corps to prepare a cost estimate for any and all feasible public swimming areas. The Potomac River is not only a destination for recreation, but DC is wholly dependent on the Potomac River for our drinking water, and natural man-made events could render the river unusable for this purpose. The federally owned and operated Washington Aqueduct produces drinking water from the river for the district. However, the aqueduct maintains only a single day, one day, of backup water supply. This poses a serious risk both for DC residents and the federal government. I have requested that the Water Resources Development Act require the Army Corps to conduct a study on a secondary drinking water source for DC. The revival of the Potomac River has been a collective effort between government agencies, utilities, and community activists. DC Water has significantly reduced the amount of sewage and storm water entering the Potomac River. Each year, I am able to secure a special federal appropriation for DC Water's Clean Rivers project, which, as you know, addresses combined sewer overflows. DC laws such as imposing a plastic bag fee and banning the use of polyester and plastic straws has greatly reduced the trash pollution in the Potomac rivers. Community groups have organized river cleanups and ecosystem regeneration, like the Potomac Riverkeepers Network, 50 Million Mussel Project. Without this collaborative effort, the Potomac River would not be where it is today. While the Potomac River has come a long way, there is still work to be done. New pollutants like the microplastics and chemical contaminants from household products are infecting our water and are much harder to clean. Innovative solutions to combat modern pollutants will be essential to maintain our momentum toward a trash-free and swimmable Potomac River. I am running for chair or ranking member of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure next Congress. If I am chair of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, clean water will be a top priority for the committee. I certainly look forward to continuing to work with the Potomac Riverkeepers Network to keep our waters clean and welcome everyone back to the nation's rivers. Thank you for this memorable day.
Good morning, everyone, and happy World Water Day. I'm Nancy Stoner, president of the Potomac Riverkeeper Network, and I'm very pleased to introduce Radhika Fox to you today. Radhika is the Assistant Administrator for Water at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. The Office of Water works to ensure that drinking water is safe, wastewater is safely returned to the environment, and surface waters are properly managed and protected. Prior to joining EPA, Radhika served as the CEO for the U.S. Water Alliance, Director for Policy and Government Affairs for the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, and the Federal Policy Director at Policy Link. Radhika holds a BA from Columbia University and a Master's in City and Regional Planning from the University of California at Berkeley, where she was a HUD Community Development Fellow. And she is a wonderful person and a great friend of mine. I bring you Radhika Fox.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? So happy World Water Day and happy 50th anniversary to the Clean Water Act. And just Nancy, thank you for your friendship and partnership for so many years. And really the Potomac Riverkeeper Network is so lucky to have you at the helm, really leading the charge. So thank you for the invitation today. So what a moment we are in for water. You know, the Biden-Harris administration under President Biden's leadership is prioritizing investment in water resources and water infrastructure like we have never seen before. $50 billion in investment through the bipartisan infrastructure law at the very moment that we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Clean Water Act. And if you think about 50 years ago, rivers like this were literally on fire. The Cuyahoga River, which really became the iconic symbol that really called for the Clean Water Act, was literally on fire 13 times. But that pollution in rivers all across the country also sparked a movement, an environmental movement that led to the Clean Water Act, that led to the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency, which is where I am so honored to serve today. And it's become the landmark policy framework for how we regulate discharges of pollutants, how we protect water quality for both people and nature so we can all thrive. The Clean Water Act also authorized many things that we enjoy today, like the National Estuary Program, as well as the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund, which has provided about $145 billion in affordable funding for communities all across the country for clean water projects. And, you know, the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Clean Water Act is also a moment for us to look to the future. What is the future that we want? And I can only imagine that 50 years ago, when people came together and they bet on their nation's water, that's the kind of moment that we are in right now with the bipartisan infrastructure law. This is the single largest investment that the federal government has ever made in our nation's water. It is going to be a chance to clean up waterways like this, to invest in our communities, and to really continue the legacy and the progress that we've made over the last 50 years. So it's just, again, such an honor to be with all of you. Happy World Water Day. Take a moment to think about how water is so essential to your everyday lives, and take a moment to celebrate the progress that we have made. Thank you so much.
Ms. Fox, thanks 1,000. It's great to have you here and representing the group with whom we generally work together, and we're happy about that. Thank you for being here today, and what inspiring words. I'd like to introduce Dean Nauyuks. Dean is the tallest member of the Potomac Riverkeeper staff. He has many, many other wonderful qualities. Dean's been with us since 2015. He is, we call him the warrior advocate. His list of accomplishments throughout his 17-year career, they're legion, and not just here. But here, he has been instrumental in a whole array of achievements. Without Dean's work, Virginia would still be storing coal ash near water sources of drinking water. Without Dean's leadership, the 50 Million Mussels project wouldn't be underway. Now, that's not to exclude Emily Frank, who actually coddles them in her own hands when she has a spare moment. Dean's been working to promote a swimmable Potomac. That's the goal. This is, we say again and again, the nation's river. Without Dean's leadership, that goal would not be possible. He's got a lot of ideas that he wants to implement and promote during this 50th anniversary celebration. Better him than I to tell you all about him. Dean Nayas. Thanks, Dean.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out today, everybody. And thank you, Congresswoman Holmes Norton, and obviously Radhika Fox from EPA. I want to echo what Radhika was saying. Basically, 50 years ago, this 70 to 90% of our nation's rivers were too polluted for fishing and swimming. And, we literally, in addition to fires, there was a lot of industrial waste, raw sewage in our rivers. They were literally bulldozing cars in our rivers. And when people realized, they were losing their swimming grounds, they were unable to eat the fish out of the river, it led to the movement that she was talking about. And people demanded action. And I have to remind everybody that these waterways, this river belongs to the public. And it belongs to the people, and people demanded action. And we passed some of the strongest environmental laws ever passed in the world. And still to this day, they serve as a model for environmental laws and ways to clean up our environment. And basically, this river, the Clean Water Act gives tools to citizens like you, to groups like us, to enforce the Clean Water Act if the agencies are not doing their job to do it. And we've done that along the way. And it works to protect existing and designated uses. Now, what that means is basically it's here to ensure that every American has a right to fish and swim and use these waterways. And we take these rights for granted now, but, we've come a long way. And basically, this organization started 22 years ago by hiring a riverkeeper at Merrifield, getting a patrol boat, and starting to patrol the river, look at all the permits, and start holding polluters accountable. And that's made a big difference along the way. And, Fritz talked about some of the successes, and I can't share that without the team that I'm with here. But basically, we've taken on every major sewage treatment plant. We've taken on GenOn, Dominion Power, and basically eliminated lots of toxic waste to the river, a lot of sewage to the river. And we've just come a long way. And as Congresswoman Norton talked about, this is a success. This is a model. Lyndon Johnson said that this river was a national disgrace, but he also said that this river should serve as a model for recreation. And look at where it's come. The wharf would not be here today if this river was still too polluted and filled with industrial waste and raw sewage. The cleanup of this river has led to the revitalization of waterfront revitalization. Figures the helicopters come right as I'm speaking, right? But basically, this organization, Potomac Riverkeeper Network, we started our Swimmable Potomac campaign just 2 years ago because we are committed to returning the rights of people to swim in this river again. And 100 years ago, 20,000 people a day used to swim in this river right here at the tidal basin. We have a water quality monitoring program. We know that 85% of the time the Washington Channel is clean enough for swimming. The tidal basin over 90% of the time. And so we feel it's time to lift the swim ban here in DC. We want to fix these combined sewer systems and make this river swimmable again. But we also want beaches and swimming areas. And this river should not just be for boaters, but for every American. Anybody who wants to use it should have the ability to come swim and fish and use this river. And that's the goal, and that's what we are fighting for every single day. So again, we take this for granted. We turn on the tap. But this has been a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of progress that we're seeing right here on this river. So I just want to let people know we're here to celebrate 50 years of progress. We're having paddle events, swimming events, we have river cleanups, a big Earth Day cleanup. We want people to come down and join us and celebrate 50 years of cleaning up our waterways. And I just lastly wanted to, I know Congresswoman Norton has left, but we had a big victory right here last week with the Washington Channel when the Army Corps of Engineers and the Army, Fort McNair was going to take away part of this channel. She worked first trying to figure out a solution with the Army to see if there was a win-win. But when the public stood up and said, no way, you're going to take half of this channel away from the people, she acted and she demanded that this plan be stopped, and she worked aggressively on that. And I just want to thank her for her leadership, because it's the public trust. This river
Where are they? I love the idea of having beaches. Where might those be?
As probably a lot of people, sea level rise, this river's raised about 11 inches in the last 100 years, but at low tide, there's a lot of areas that are basically beaches, swimming areas. We want to reclaim some of those areas. I mean, basically, we're seeing like Toronto, places all around, especially Europe, Canada, that are actually recreating beaches, taking industrial areas and building beaches. And so we're making a statement today that that's what we want here, right? I mean, right now it's great that all these boats are here and people can go out and kayak and paddle, but basically it's kind of limited to those people who have boats and the ability to get on the water. There used to be Arlington Beach, right where 14th Street Bridge used to be, right? We want this river returned, and there's plenty of areas that I've identified. But we want to have that conversation. We want beaches, we want swimming areas returned so that anybody can come and swim in this river. So that's our goal. We're putting out a map in our Swimmable Potomac report that'll be out in May this year. You can take a look at that, but that's just a starting point for us.
Yep. Right there, Dean. Mr. Benson from AMU. I just want to ask if you could talk about sort of the process for lifting this swim ban and conversation.
Well, this is one of the only cities in the United States that it's illegal to swim because of raw sewage in the waterways from the combined sewer systems. DC has made a lot of progress. We've already fixed the tunnels on the Anacostia River. The first year of operation, it captured 7 billion gallons of combined sewage and stormwater. That's a great success for the river. The Potomac Tunnel is still 9 years away. But the bottom line is, I talked about the Clean Water Act. The Clean Water Act is to protect existing and designated uses, swimming, fishing, those uses, drinking water. And to us, it just literally flies in the face that there's still a swim ban in place. It's actually allowed DC to, take its time in cleaning up this river. And so what we're saying is, DC, just like the Army Corps of Engineers, has no right to limit the use and enjoyment of this river. And it's time. It's time to lift the swim ban. It's time that we are not the only city that prohibits swimming because of our combined sewer systems. And so that process, we're hoping to get that started this year. We've already had some discussions with DOE and others, but we're just hopeful we can push that forward and move the envelope. But we felt like, if anything, on the 50th anniversary of the Clean Water Act, we were going to demand that the swim ban be lifted and that everybody has a right to swim in this river again. So that's a starting point for us here on the Potomac River.
I told you, 15 minutes about an apple.
That's it.
Hi,
Ma'am.
Thank you for your work, Nancy. What will the mussels do?
What do you get Emily up here?
Mussels do.
I mean, the bottom line is, everybody knows the success of oysters, right? The restoration of the bay, making oysters a best management practice, right? They filter 50 gallons of water per day. The mighty mussel, though, only filters about 5 to 10 gallons a day, but it eliminates the same amount of nitrogen and phosphorus and sediment as oysters do. So we feel they deserve a chance at being recognized as a best management practice. And we want mussels, we need freshwater mussels all through the Potomac. The James Riverkeepers have already been putting mussels in the James River, and we want to do it here. We want to create a hatchery down at National Harbor. This is the work of Emily Frank, our former Anacostia Riverkeeper, our amazing development director. She's leading the charge on this. But that's our goal, and we're just getting started.
You're putting muscle in the fight for clean water.
Yeah, we're putting muscle back into cleaning up the river. So anyway, that's the goal, the 50 million muscle. So we got a long way to go. Yeah. And
How does climate change factor into like your plans? What changes over the next maybe 10 or 20 years in climate change for us?
Well, I mean, we saw just this year with climate change, sea level rise causing some major combined sewer issues and sewage issues down in the lower Potomac when the entire system got overwhelmed and raw sewage went into oyster grounds. A lot of people got sick because there wasn't a closure issued by MDE. But also here are combined sewer systems, right? We know that there's more intense rain events, right? So we're trying to make sure that when Alexandria and DC are developing these combined sewer systems, they're factoring in climate change, these more intense rain events that will overwhelm the system. I mean, by design, they're supposed to, once they're built and completed, they're supposed to only have about 4 to 6 events a year. Right now, about 50 to 60 times a year, we have combined sewer overflows into the river. So if they're going to stay on track with that 4 to 6 metric, then they got to factor in climate change. They say they are, but a lot of it is just making sure and staying top of these plans. But it impacts a lot of things that we do, stormwater runoff, urban stormwater runoff, also another big issue with these intense rain events, flushing a lot of pollutants in our waterways. So it definitely has an impact on water quality in the Potomac River for sure. And we think about that all the time in terms of our work and what we're doing.
Thank you, Dean. Everybody, thanks 1,000. It's great to see all your shining faces, enjoying this, enjoying the lovely cherry blossoms and the work that Potomac Riverkeeper Network is doing. Enjoy the day. You got a good one. Thanks ever so. Cheers.